I'd rather be a square today and still be around tomorrow, is what TLR camera manufacturers seem to have thought though. You know what? They weren't wrong. It is very difficult to go into a happy snappy mode if you're carrying around something like this. The Mamiya company is really synonymous with high quality medium format cameras with an absolute dedicated following worldwide to this day. And even though they did dabble in 35mm SLR territory too, they did so with slightly less aplomb and status. In my own career, early on, between about 2000 and 2006, I shot exclusively on Mamiya 645 camera systems, predominantly the Mamiya 645 Pro TL versions with an array of lenses and bats and the myriad of accessories that you had available to you. Now, as a predominantly magazine shooter, I always found the square format a bit tough to work with, and the rectangular shape of a 645 or 67 format were much preferred simply because you were composing for double page spreads or full page portraits. Now, the Mamiya C33 was marketed as a professional grade camera, and after running a couple of rolls through it, I can see why. TLR systems are not readily associated with pro photography anymore, but at the time these systems were the preferred medium format system, with possibly a Hasselblad flying the flag for medium format SLR systems. The C33 was released in 1965, but a year or so later the, I suppose, better known C330 was released, which also enabled the use of 220 film and a few other minor adjustments. On studying the manual of the C33, I noticed that in fact you can use 220 film on it, but only on the camera bodies that has an H in front of the serial number, or if you had your camera converted at the authorized repair shops at an additional charge. Now, as a side note, there's actually a way to tell when your camera was manufactured, and this information comes from MamiyaRepair.com. A technician by the name of Bill Rogers runs the site, and it's very valuable. I'm going to quote from his website. It says Mamiya used a couple of different date code schemes on their products. Most date codes are found on a small gold sticker or orange affixed to the body or lens and consist of two letters. The first letter is the year of production and the second letter is the month. It is located in different spots. Many lenses have the sticker on the side, although RB/RZ lenses typically have it stuck on the back of the lens. Some cameras, such as the 645 Super, Pro and Pro TL, Mamiya 67 and RZ Pro 2 have the date code as a prefix to the serial number. From 1961 to 1970, the letters were AJ. Example A would be January and A would be 1961 if the code was AA. 1971 to 1980, the letters AJ were used. Example A would be January and B would be 1972 because it starts in 1971. From 1981 to 2000, the letters A to T were used. Example A and C would, for instance, be January 1983. B and C would be February 1983. From 2001 to 2014, the letters A to N were used. Example A would be January and another A would be 2001. So you needed to know what decade your camera was manufactured in, since this letters repeated itself around about every decade. But as we know that my camera was manufactured in the 1960s, it has this code stuck in the inside of the film chamber of this camera. It is HJ, which tells me that is, if I'm quickly making a calculation, that would be August 1969 that this camera was manufactured. Now, before we head to the ocean side where I used this camera to see how it performed, let's quickly cover some of the basic specifications. Type: it's a twin lens reflex medium format camera. Operation is fully manual. Origin is Japan. It was manufactured from 1965 to 1969 more or less. Film back is fixed, so it's not interchangeable. Film formats, 120 roll film or 6x6 format. Film Advance is by using this crank lever. It allows for roll film, but also for double exposures by just using that dial. The viewfinder is a 6x6 ground glass for waist level viewing, but you could also buy it with options for eye level viewing by purchasing either the basic prism finder, the poro finder, which I have, or the CDS poro finder that included a built-in light meter. In the viewfinder, you've got parallax guides on screen and focal length guides, and as you focus, you'll see the parallax guide move up and down. Prism finders magnify the ground glass image to around twice the original size, which is great for focusing. The weight of this camera without the prism or lens is about 1.7 kilograms, but it's about 2 kilos to carry around. Dimensions is 112 millimeters by 118 millimeters by 110 millimeters. That's that square box without the prism. Lens system is Mamiya C-mount interchangeable system, and the lenses can be used on C220s, C22s and C330 cameras. The available lenses in the series is a 55 millimeter all the way to a 250 millimeter lens. I think there's about 7 of them. The lens is a Mamiya Secor 80 millimeter. The aperture range is F2.8 to F32. It's got a 5 blade diaphragm, curved blades. The closest focusing distance is 35 centimeters, which is very close. The focusing system is bellows, which is really cool. The shutter is a Secor central leaf shutter. In other words, the shutter is in the lens. It has automatic cocking with a film crank winder. You just need to turn it back. Cable release option, yes, you can put a cable release in there. And the range of shutter speeds is bulb 1 second to 1/500 of a second. It does not have a built-in flash. It has a cold shoe, and it does have a PC sync plug for external flash. It does not have a built-in light meter unless you use the CDS poro finder. It does not use batteries, and the price varies, but I've seen everything from $200 to $500 for the body and lens, depending on all the accessories that you get from it. And I've seen lenses for $50 to $100 each. Now let's have a look at how this camera performed out by the ocean side. I used Ilford FP4 that expired in 1992, but I was assured by the seller that the film was very well stored for the last 30 years. He was not even 30 years old, so I just ignored that. This is quite a treacherous place to be taking out old cameras. From last time that I was here when I shot my Pentax K1000 video, you might remember the waves breaking over this wall. So I am taking a chance, but you know, anything for art. I am very excited to try this camera today, and I just haven't had any opportunity really to try it out. So this is the Mamiya C33 with the Ilford FP4 in the beautiful Kalk Bay Harbour. Great. So the take-up spool is already in the right spot. Confirm that it's sticky. Ew. I'm going to be shooting this at 100 ASA and maybe overexposing just a little bit to compensate. So it's like a third of a stop compensation in terms of how I rate it, but then also I'll overexpose possibly by half a stop to a stop, and black and white film can handle that very easily. But expired black and white film, generally they say stop for every 10 years. I don't know, that's more, I think, relevant to color film. Black and white film holds its sensitivity quite well. Turn it till the counter gets to 1. There we go. I'll be metering with my app that I have on my phone today. This camera does not have a built-in light meter, so I'll be shooting fairly handheld, probably not the slowest exposures. This is a very bright day in Cape Town, and even at 100 ASA, I mean, that is, you're going to have sufficient shutter speed not to get any shake. This camera, I'm actually looking forward to rediscovering the square format, which is very interesting when you start shooting sort of urban-y type of scenes. I know there's a very good use case for it in landscapes in general. I just haven't been that effective with it, and because I really never shot it that much, but I'm really looking to explore the square format a little bit more. So let's see what this camera has to offer, and hopefully no issues. So people walk into your shot and whatnot, so I just decided to shift a little bit left and get a shot of the fisherman in the corner. Let's hope it's better than I think it is. Too many people, too many people. At this point, you'll notice me starting to take more and more pictures of the seal, and I have to confess, I have a bit of an affinity for seals. They remind me of cats, and just the way that they laze about, and I don't know, it's like they just own the space that they're in. And you'll notice a theme in my work, especially in this video, and that is seals and lighthouses. In terms of the film, I do notice that in the sky there's like a blotchiness to the film. I suppose that is the emulsion starting to disintegrate just somewhat. It left absolutely no details in the shadow areas. Then this is one of my favorite shots. I just happened to take it very quickly, and I absolutely love this shot. So I literally sped through the first roll. It is really a great camera to shoot. I must say I'm actually missing the top viewfinder, but this does make it nice for eye level shooting, this prism. And also the beauty is obviously then things are the right way around, so you don't have that mirror image, that reverse image that you normally have with the top viewfinder. But so far actually fantastic fun. So let's wind it up and see what we get. Hold the tip in tight, let's lick and see. No, it tastes like nothing. Anyway, so I'm just going to be playing around with this now. You might not see every behind the scenes moment of me taking pictures, but I will catch up with you later. At this point, I left the harbor and made my way to town. I love this shot. There's something timeless about this whole scene. There's something rustic, but also the texture that the film just displays, maybe because the emulsion's old. There's a grittiness that I love, and it really suited the vibe of the day. And remember, I'm shooting middle of the day, and that's maybe why the shadows are completely void of detail. I mean, I was even able to get that shot in the causeway at the train station. Generally, the square format I find work really well for this urban sort of feel, and I'm really getting into the composition hereof. Before I went home, I had to make a quick turn with my seal friend and just say a final goodbye. Last time we chatted, I was in Kalk Bay in Cape Town. I'm currently about 250, 60, 70 kilometers north of Cape Town in a town called Lambert's Bay, which is my hometown where I grew up. The Western Cape at the moment is actually really hot. It's, most days in Cape Town now is over 30 degrees Celsius, which is more than 90 degrees Fahrenheit. But here in Lambert's Bay, it is really nice and relatively cool. It's about 22 degrees, a bit of humidity. But what we have is this fog that covers the town, often in summer, which is great. But also it gives me an opportunity to shoot some really moody images that actually comes across as wintry images, but it's actually in the middle of summer. And I have my Mamiya C33 still with me with my Ilford FP4. I'm not planning to do behind the scenes shots of every shot I take, but this is just to clue you in on where I am. So I'm going to be doing some shots here on the harbour wall. I only have this one roll, so it's, I mean, we're looking at 12 images. Anyways, I hope you enjoy the images, and I'll see you back in the studio. Like I said, lighthouses and seals. At this point, there was another Cape Fur seal, and my son and I and my brother, we were there at the beach together, and I spent some time observing and then photographing this majestic little creature on his rock, trying to get some heat. The camera is not inconspicuous. It is not light. It does not leave anyone to guessing what you're about to do. The operation of this camera requires a bit of focus, not just focus, but mental focus. I found using the camera quite an engrossing experience. And so it's easy enough to use this camera to shoot portraits. And with a tripod accessory that was available to combat the parallax challenges that you have with the TLR, it was called a paramender. It was actually quite useful in the studio. I remember when I was studying, there was one of the other students who used a C220, and he used to have the paramender, and it was great for studio product photography. The camera has some quirks, and most of it has to do with the winding and the automatic cocking, and also loading the film. First off, after winding the film onto the next frame, the crank lever has to be turned back the other way to cock the shutter. It took me a while to figure this out. And then you can place it like that and you're ready for your shot. Changing lenses on these cameras are actually fairly easy. You just lift that little thing out there, and it's really easy to do. And there are a fair number of accessories available for this camera. You've got side grips and flash guns, and that'll all, especially a side grip with an eye level finder, will give you a bit more of a Pentax 6.7 feel, I suppose, with this camera. But carrying it around for around 3 hours like I did, with this little strap, which is not, it's not on brand for the camera, it really did work on my shoulder after a while. But what I cannot deny, and no one can deny, is that this camera is really built beautifully and well. The leatherette, everything just feels high quality. As far as the lens is concerned, it's really sharp. Although I only have the standard 80mm focal length, it is a really good, sharp lens. Mamiya is known for making good lenses. Now I find myself leaning more into the 6x6 format as well, and really enjoying it for composing the type of subjects that I did now and not having to shoot for a magazine. The drawback is definitely the price on these things, and I suppose the weight for some people will be a problem. I found mine for a really reasonable price. It was an estate sale, so I cannot complain about the investment. But when you're buying online, you'll have to weigh up whether you might not be better off with a Bronica Kowa, which are SLRs, or a Yashica TLR, which can sometimes be found for much cheaper than you would find these C33s. So, in conclusion, I love this camera. I'm not selling this camera. If you can, and you have a bit of money to spend on a TLR, this is the best TLR experience you're gonna have, in my humble opinion. I have my Yashica, but that's a little more of a novelty, a little bit of a quirk camera. This thing is high quality engineering, and I mean, it's been around almost 60 years and it works like an absolute charm. Thanks so much for watching this video, and if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. And also I will put down some links in the description where you can purchase your own Mamiya C33 and FP4 expired film and some other accessories that I use as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.